Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of BellyUpSports. There is still an important job that needs to be put, and that is the manager, of course, for the U.S. team. So, Jose, we're going to have 3 categories. We're going to have a reach of a manager that we think could probably come in for the U.S., which means more than likely it's not going to happen. What we would like to see, so a manager that you would like to see that you feel would fit the parameters for the U.S. men's national team, and then, of course, what we think U.S. soccer is going to end up doing.
Yeah, man. It's well, so I imagine we're starting from the dream signing, right? Like who absolutely gets targeted here. I think the dream signing for anybody, but let's say I don't want to go too far fetched with this pick because I think that I have someone in my mind that's like the absolute like tournament manager of all time that we could try and target, but it just wouldn't like I just don't see him ever doing it. And like that dream scenario would probably be someone like, let's say Carlo, right? For example's sake. I'm not saying that's my pick, but I'm just saying like that to me is like very far-fetched because I just don't see him ever leaving. I think he would never leave Real Madrid. It's just that
he was supposed to take the Brazil job.
He was 100%, 100%. But I feel like it's just one of those where it feels too far-fetched. It feels like way beyond the realms of reality. I feel like if he was going to take, like the thing is like at this point of his career, he's such a fantastic man manager that he really needs to ensure that a certain floor is there in terms of quality and in terms of star power. Because I think that's where he thrives, that environment. I think when we saw the transition from Everton back to Real, I think that we saw like a different version of Carlo again. I think Brazil offers him that too. Not only a certain amount of Real Madrid players, but just the star power, right? Literally probably the most sought after national team job in the world is probably Brazil. I can't think of another country that would attract more managers. Now, with that said, a far-fetched pick of mine, and I actually think from my perspective, it's only far-fetched because he currently coaches a big nation. And I think this could work depending on like what we wanted to go after. I say what, meaning results versus things like playing style. But as someone who prioritizes results over anything, I think the dream signing, believe it or not, would be someone like Gareth Southgate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the reason I lean in that direction is because you look at all the managers before him. Look at what England accomplished prior to Southgate arriving. They had a golden generation fly by, right? And for those who don't remember, go watch the 06 World Cup, the 2010 World Cup, the Rio Ferdinands, the Frank Lampards, the Ashley Coles, the Wayne Rooneys, the David Beckhams. That was a generational class of talent. And I mean, at a time when the Premier League was at its absolute height, it still blows my mind. Like I remember watching England getting eliminated by Portugal in the 06 World Cup, right? And like the method in which it happened, Rooney getting a red card, the Ronaldo wink, like all of those things. And it's just like one thing after another, or them barely qualifying for the 02 World Cup. It took a crazy Beckham free kick against Greece in the final game of qualifying to get that. Like, it's just like whether it's one reason or another, they've had such great talent come through. Now you can argue that the talent is maybe hitting another level, which means that results have to happen. And he's made it to semifinal, final. Like, though that is whether people want to see it or not and are demanding trophies, that is progression for the motherland of football. That really is. That is progression for that country. People are going to say, maybe he absolutely had to win the Euro 2024 because of the expectation. But I think people were just sleeping on Spain. They were sleeping on probably a number of countries, to be honest, but also I think reading too much into the hype that some of these players carry individually. The Jude Bellinghams of the world, the Phil Fodens of the world, the Bukayo Sakas of the world. There's so much hype, Cole Palmer, all around all these players and individually, but it doesn't mean they can work as a team. And I was actually pretty impressed considering how bad they looked in the group stages. But look, man, with how the U.S. plays under Berhalter, would we be giving Berhalter as much flack on that front if he was getting results?
See, that's the counterpoint because I feel like the results have been there. Obviously, I mean,
No, but
obviously
in major tournaments, like if he had gone to like the semifinals of the World Cup with this U.S. team, would we still be crying for a new manager?
no. And the reason why, obviously, that means that he is getting results against top 20 nations. He's getting,
Exactly.
and I mean, people may say what they want about Gareth Southgate. I've actually praised that man, plenty of times because once again, England for quite some time was a laughingstock. Yeah, there's heartbreak. It happens, but you're in the fucking final. It goes back to some of those people that like say I'd rather get blown out than lose by a small margin. I would much rather lose by a small margin knowing that my team put everything out on. And I think that's also the thing is like if I can clearly see a Greg Berhalter led team playing top quality football, and I know that it wasn't because of it wasn't because they were playing bad. It wasn't because they didn't have bad tactics. It just wasn't their day.
Yeah.
I can tip my cap to Greg Berhalter. But every single game, it just feels the same thing. They're playing conservative. They keep trying to play the ball to the back with center backs that sometimes honestly don't necessarily agree with their feet. And we all know how great Matt Turner is with his feet. Which
Seriously.
he's steadily gotten better. But still not there. But and it's like it's crazy to think when you look at that attacking front that the US potentially has, and it's like, how come we're not moving the ball through them? We keep praising the midfield. How come we're not moving the ball through them? Why is the ball being run through by a center back when we clearly have, midfielders that can do stuff with the ball? We have Christian Pulisic waiting on the wings. Obviously, I'm not taking jabs on Jedi and Sergino Dest. I think obviously they've done amazing on the wings, and I kind of don't count them as defense sometimes.
Yeah.
But if I can sit and watch a Greg Berhalter led game and say, "Oh, this is great football that they're playing," I wouldn't be complaining as much as I have. I have felt that his tactics are very dry. It's not creative. It limits the players to their creativity, and that's also something that I kind of want in a manager is to see someone that it lets them be creative. And I will tell you, Southgate lets his players be creative. I mean, and yes, he had to be saved by Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka off the occasion. But you know what? Big time players come on big time moments, and he has a roster full of big time players. So, yeah, I mean, what you say about Gareth Southgate is a very interesting thing. I think England, they're close. They're so
Yeah.
close. I don't know what
And some look, in some ways he got in his own way. I don't agree with how he treated like Harry Kane and all of that stuff. Like to dick ride Harry Kane and just let him be captain and always be starting. I don't agree with that. I think you put your best 11 on the pitch. And in my opinion, for that England team, Ollie Watkins was by far the better striker. At least in terms of what they needed. They needed someone to run into the channels behind the back line to create space. And they just did not have that. And Harry Kane was dropping in so deep. Like, brother, if you want to be a center mid, say something. Like, they can move some shit around or call up another forward. But with players like Bellingham, Foden, Rice behind you, you do not need to drop into the fucking midfield to get the ball. Stay your ass up top, challenge the center backs, and be a striker. And I don't want to go on a whole rant about that, but that was my only criticism, really, I think, of how he handled the tournament. But outside of that, whether it's ugly or pretty, you have to get the results against the teams you have to beat. And you really want your manager to be able to get the result against the top teams out there. And Southgate did both. And so, again, if this is Berhalter with the U.S. men's national team, if we had gone to the Copa America semifinal and lost in PKs this short of a final or whatever, right? I don't know if we're even having this conversation.
Yeah, yeah. So Gareth Southgate, I think is a good reach option because I don't think England is going to lose him anytime soon. And if he does end up leaving England, I'm sure it's for a Premier League job.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
so there's that. My manager that I think is a bit of a reach, um, is a name that has been thrown out a little bit. Um, I do like his defensive tactics. I've praised that man way too much now. Even though his recent run of form has not been great, but he is the definitely a quote unquote tournament manager, and that's Thomas Tuchel, which would be very controversial, being that the fact that him and Christian Pulisic don't see things eye to eye so much as lately. But I mean, when it comes to a tournament, the man knows how to take his teams far. I mean, literally, what kept him for as long as he could at Bayern Munich was because of the fact that Bayern Munich was making a semifinal run in the Champions League this year. I do mostly blame it on the Hurricane curse, but there is still that. Actually, as a matter of fact, I believe Bayern Munich was actually trying to keep him after they realized that they were very limited on options. And obviously that's why now they have Vincent Kompany as their manager, and we'll see how that pans out. But Thomas Tuchel is without a job. Like I said, I think tactically, defensively could probably fit very well to CONCACAF. I don't necessarily feel like he puts strains on his attack, but obviously we're looking for someone that's going to be able to put that attack to the next level. And obviously Thomas Tuchel is not necessarily that guy, but defensively they'll be solid.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
But all right, who do you want to be the next manager of the U.S. men's national team?
If I could do this my way, I actually have two for different reasons. But I think I'll stick with the most realistic of those two. I was going to say Yogi Love for a lot of different reasons of what he's done with Germany. I think anybody who follows Germany in the 2010s era is very familiar with his work. And Yogi Love, the biggest obstacle for him would be English and connecting with these players. But I think who I hope it is, I hope it's a foreigner, first and foremost. I hope it's someone who isn't so tied to these players, this group of talent, or even the federation. I want someone who's coming in with a chip on their shoulders to only do one thing, and that's win. And I'll be honest, man. I know he's got a long-term contract. I don't know how they make this work if it were to be possible, but I'll be honest. Like it's such a low likelihood. I would take Wilfred Nancy tomorrow. I really would. I think he's the biggest reason why is not even a lot of people will cite his dynamism, his tactics as a manager, how he has Columbus Crew playing and working at this time. But I think it's bigger than that. I think what he showed in the run up to the CONCACAF Champions Cup final, when he was literally benching Cucho Hernandez, stuck out to me in a massive way. That there is zero nepotism, there is zero agenda with him. It is literally the best 11 will play, and not just the best. Doesn't also just mean best on the pitch, but those who are bought into what he wants to do on the pitch and how he wants his players to act out off of the pitch, right? And you combine all of that into a very disciplined team that can work through a system that helps them win games. And I feel like Wilfred Nancy can achieve that. The biggest obstacle to acquiring him is really going to be, I think, his long-term contract with the Columbus Crew. I don't know what it will take to really kind of get him out of that. And also, I think for the sake of Major League Soccer, which I do watch avidly, they would be missing out. They would be losing out on a pretty damn good coach. One that has kind of set the standard for how managers are graded and critiqued in this league. And so, I'm sure he could be in this Columbus job for quite some time. Not even just that, but I'm sure he also wants to end up back in Europe at some point. And so, I don't know how a national team job would affect those ambitions. So for a lot of reasons, it's unrealistic. But I do believe that with what we can spend, where we are as a federation, who we can attract realistically, I think Nancy, for a lot of good reasons, makes sense. Someone like the only difference between like him and like Hervé Renard would be the recent success that he's had on any level. versus Hervé, who's had to really kind of deal with, um, he's on the French women's national team now, but people are citing his Saudi Arabia stint in the World Cup and losing to Mexico. I heard Charlie Davies say this shit, by the way, and I couldn't even believe what I was hearing. This man was trying to put down Hervé Renard for losing as the Saudi Arabia manager to Mexico in the World Cup. I'm like, do you not fucking understand? Like, because he was saying, oh, the U.S. men's national team manager can't lose to Mexico, not this Mexico. I'm like, do you understand that the team that we have is not fucking Saudi Arabia? Like that, on paper, we're just wildly different in terms of quality on the field. Like, no disrespect to Saudi Arabian national team, but they're just not a top 15, top 20 team in the world. They're just not. So why are we making an apples to apples comparison? That's the shit that I don't like about like just the conversations being had around who's the next manager in line. But I think Wilfred Nancy would make both sides fairly happy.
Yeah, I think Wilfred Nancy, obviously, we all speak very highly. Actually, if you guys check out GolzTV and Wake Up MLS, we do give a lot of flowers to Wilfred Nancy, and we do believe he is the standard of when it comes to MLS coaching. You know what you said? You gave me two names. Obviously a realistic one and one that you think is kind of a little bit of a reach. And I'll kind of do the same thing. The manager that I think would be a reach, but I would love to see what he could do with the U.S. men's national team. Would be Pellegrino Matarazzo. I think what he's been able to do over in one has his credentials through UEFA. I look, as someone that does have an F license from the U.S. Soccer Federation, which obviously was just going through a slideshow presentation, and obviously I haven't gone and I'm not trying to be a coach, so I'm not gonna continue pursuing it, but and I've seen the process, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like the U.S. Soccer Federation licensing for coaching is kind of a joke. I know some. Don't get mad at me. Don't any of the people that I know that have their licenses. No offense to you guys, but I've also seen you guys also go pursue other licenses through other federations. So also, I'm not that far off on that take. But and I think U.S. Soccer Federation, they can finally grow a pair. Whenever that can happen, I think that they need to take a lot from what Germany has done with their not only their system, but how the system also helps the Bundesliga. And I know that sounds crazy to say that because obviously it's been dominated by one team for so many years. But look at their fucking generation of players. There's always good German players that are coming out now, and that's because Germany's federation has put in an emphasis on developing German players. I believe that you're supposed to have a certain number of German players on your team. As a matter of fact, because in Bundesliga and across the leagues, that you have to have a certain number of players that are German. So I feel like hopefully if US ever grows a pair, someone that would be very familiar to those kind of rules, it would be great to have a guy that understands how Germany has done it and he can put his insight into it. And Pellegrino Matarazzo, one, has done a great job with Stuttgart. Used to be a very laughable team. Yes, he wasn't with them last season, and they looked amazing this past season. If it wasn't for Bayer Leverkusen, we'd probably be talking about Stuttgart a little bit more.
Yeah.
But he had an impact on that. And then look what he did with Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim was on the cusp of being relegated. And they finished in a very good position for next season. And I think that is all on Pellegrino Matarazzo. Plus, the guy's American, and he's from fucking New Jersey, which if you guys don't know anything about U.S. soccer, New Jersey just seems to be like the mecca of soccer players. I don't know why. Should be Texas. But that's a whole discussion for another day. But I'll be honest with you. The soccer capital is New Jersey. I don't know why people are trying to say St. Louis or Cincinnati, Ohio. It's been New Jersey. Most players come from New Jersey, the New Jersey area. I'll throw Pennsylvania in there as well. But
I would say East Coast in general is pretty strong.
It's very strong in the East Coast. It's specifically more toward everybody I've met, as far as in the soccer, in a soccer setting, have some sort of connection to New Jersey. So, I mean, clearly it's there. The presence in there is New Jersey. So, Pellegrino Matarazzo would be the name that I don't think it's going to happen because he did mention that he didn't seem to like the way he was approached to for the U.S. men's national team job when it was available. He said that it felt that it was very like rushed, and I think they were just trying to say, hey, look, we interviewed him. So I think that there's a bad taste in his mouth, similar to Jesse Marsh with the U.S. men's national team. So that's where I don't think necessarily that he would take the job because of that. But Pellegrino Matarazzo is my reach of who I would love to see take over U.S. soccer. And then who I would realistically think is very much possible is Hervé Renard. I think he is. I mean, if there's one word you hear me say a lot in this podcast, is the man's a fucking dog. Like I mean, like he beat Argentina. Argentina, the only team that Argentina couldn't beat in the World Cup was freaking Saudi Arabia. Just like I just want to point that out. He rallied his troops and got them to go. I don't necessarily know about the tactics that came in play, but he somehow lit a fire under these guys' asses, and they went ahead and beat Argentina in their first match of the World Cup, and now they're all driving Ferraris because the Saudi Arabian government went ahead and hooked them up. So I mean, like that is it. The man has won two AFCONs, one with Ivory Coast, the other one with Zambia, I believe. Have you heard them in AFCON in a while? I haven't. So
Ivory Coast. I mean, to be fair, they had a good run in this past tournament, but yeah,
they did. But we haven't seen them in the World Cup. At least I've never seen them since I existed. So, but he, two AFCONs. The guy is proven in tournaments. I mean, give him his props for how he performed in Saudi Arabia. Oh, he didn't. Charlie Davis just go back to doing the stinky like that was a bad take.
Charlie Davies is kind of just, I don't know, man. A lot of people like him. I think his takes, he might be a great guy. I'm not judging him as a person, but his soccer takes sometimes are fucking horrendous. Like
he's a Wish.com version of Michael Richards.
Yeah, bro. I don't get it, man. It's just like even like sometimes he judges other people on the panel too and on the show. I'm like, bro, it's not like your takes. It's not like you're just spitting gold out every time you talk, man. Like your stuff's pretty down bad too. But anyway, I agree with you, Hervé. I would welcome an Hervé Renard signing, 100%.
And I mean, let's be honest. Like these American players, they need a kick in the ass. I'm sorry, but like the way they were playing against Uruguay, the way they were complaining, they need to get focused back in the game. And I think a guy like Herb could have definitely they need someone to yell at them. Everyone, you know what? Some of the best things in the world is sometimes you just need a good ass chewing. Like you just need somebody to yell at you for no apparent reason. It helps you with the adrenaline. So I mean, like I definitely think Herb Renard would be a great addition to and I think it's very realistic. And plus, he speaks English sort of. And so I think it would be a good fit to him. And I think it would be different. It's a European manager. I think that it checks off the boxes. We need different mentalities. But the reason why U.S. Soccer won't get him, and it's kind of similar to what happened with Jurgen Klinsmann, is just that they're bigger.
Yeah.
They're not gonna fall in line with what U.S. Soccer wants. They want to see this federation improve. Jurgen Klinsmann wanted this federation to be better. And what you guys do made him look like a villain.
What they do best.
So, yes, I am a defender of Jurgen Klinsmann. Literally gave us, bro, we lost against Belgium in the World Cup. But you know what? I felt like we won that game because we took Belgium the distance. Maybe not the penalties, but we went pretty far with Belgium. The prime golden generation Belgium. So, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but that tip of the hat, and also Tim Howard was him that day. So I just wanna, and then Julian Green, probably the positive time we once saw Julian Green. Chris Wondolowski probably maybe was like, maybe we should have never called that guy up. But I love you, Wando. But yeah, so all right. Obviously, who do you really think U.S. Soccer is gonna hire?
I'm not gonna want to hear this, man. I think U.S. Soccer is gonna do this whole dance, and it's gonna be one of two people. It's gonna be a retread, or potentially a retread, or someone very similar. It's gonna be either a Steve Cherundolo or a Bob Bradley type of signing, guaranteed. Lock it the fuck in. People who are saying Luis de la Fuente, who are saying like all these other names. I seen Patrick Vieira's name come up again, like. All these romantic ideas you can have. Hey man, let your imagination run free for a couple weeks if you want, or for a few weeks. Cool. I mean, have a good time with it because the USSF's going to clamp down on those dreams harder than college did probably for you. And at the end of the day, what we're going to be left with is someone who's got strong ties to American soccer in some form or fashion. They were a former USMNT player, or they're a former MLS coach or a current MLS coach. They just have some buy into what USSF is trying to build and the values, quote unquote, that they think that person stands for. It's going to be that. Like I can almost put some hard fucking money on it. If it's not one of those two guys, it's going to be someone who has similar qualities. Maybe even someone like reaching deep into the barrel, like an Oscar Pareja or some shit, right? Maybe they even go back to Trent Klinsmann and see if he's interested. I don't know, but I really believe like a Bob Bradley or Cherundolo, like just someone who's got strong ties to this federation, who thinks differently than Berhalter, different tactics, different style of play, different man management, but still is on brand with what the federation's looking for.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's going to be Cherundolo. I
Yeah.
don't. There's nothing. And I think it's also kind of being teased out to everybody. And this is, hey, you know what? It worked with Greg Berhalter. Maybe we can work again. We could probably scare U.S. soccer again. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be Steve Cherundolo. I hated that press conference where he's like, "I'm the LAFC coach today. I'm the LAFC coach tomorrow. We got training, guys." Bro, like it's
It is what it is, bro. I honestly, man, I'm so like jaded about the whole process. That's why I just keep saying like my expectations are low, guys. They're fucking low. Like I'm begging for U.S. soccer to shock me. I just I've been watching this team for too long. It's just like I'm at a point now where I was being a Mexican American, where I was the Mexican Federation years ago. At some point, like people are who they are, unless there's radical change at the systemic level. People just are how they are, who they are. You can't change them. And I think the Federation thinks a certain way, and they're going to mask it as we're doing what's best for the growth of the game on this side of the world. It's bigger than the national team, et cetera, et cetera. Say whatever you want, put lipstick on whatever pig you want to. It's just don't be shocked when we get more of the same, when it's just a different outfit on the same brand or type of person.
yeah. Or you guys can hire her, Bernard, and at least we can say we have the hottest coach on the field.
Bro,
So
I take Hervé Renard in a fucking second, bro. Like I really would. People again, Charlie Davies, bro. I would love to have a debate with you on this, man. Because what the crazy part was when he was in like trying to absolutely steamroll Renard. It was like all around losing to Mexico, not getting out of the group. Like kind of what has he done recently, but would not talk about his accomplishments, and we know why. There's an agenda, right? Like at the end of the day, that man has achieved more than Greg Berhalter could sniff on the best day of his life, but they will back Greg as long as the win percentage is high or whatever it's going to be. Like I don't know, man. At the end of the day, a lot needs to change, including who we let have a platform and talk about this shit. But at the end of the day, I don't think anybody can blame me for just being somewhat negative about this. I just don't think any real change is going to happen, at least before 2026. Now, after that, maybe they hire someone like a Cherundolo because it's more of like an interim style hiring, right? It's only like a 2-year contract. It's just to get to the World Cup and then see what happens. Maybe that's the play. I don't really know, but I don't believe U.S. soccer is going to fix all of their problems with the next hire. I think that it's going to be another cycle after that.
yeah, exactly. And it just goes back to what I hope for, and that's that the USA wins despite the managing. I hope that this golden generation can finally just say, you know what, F the Texas, we're just gonna do what we're gonna do.
Exactly.
And obviously, we're gonna see what the next crop of players can do because we're gonna see them in the Olympics along with Walker Zimmerman and Miles Robertson for some odd reason. So that's gonna be great. But yeah, man. It's great that Greg Berhalter got fired, but I mean, there's still deeper problems with U.S. soccer, and that's not going to get fixed anytime soon. But unless we see Herb Bernard, and then you're just going to hear me talk about how hot he is. So I mean, that's a positive. So